To help understand sonata form, we can take a look at one of Mozart's piano sonatas, the first movement. Now, in a multi-movement sonata, it's very frequently the first movement that adheres to the sonata form, which is in three sections. You have your exposition, you have your development, and you have your recapitulation. Your exposition is obviously where it starts, and this is where you develop, or you introduce your musical themes. And you have two musical themes to begin with, minimum of two, and they have to contrast in at least one way, and that way is key signature. So obviously we've established that Mozart's piano sonata in C major is in C major. The key, in a major key, it's very, very typical for a piano sonata in the exposition for that second theme to modulate into the dominant key. Now, the dominant key is the fifth note up in the scale. So, C major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, D, E, F, G is G major. So he's going to do theme A in C major and theme B in G major. And that's exactly what he does. So obviously theme 1 starts the whole thing off anyway, and that's all in C major. And then actually, if you look a little bit further on, he's got a second theme which is in G major. And that's sort of here. And so on. Okay, now the thing you've got to remember is that crossing from a tonic to a dominant key signature is quite a sudden thing. So what they'll often do is put in a nice modulation there so that the whole thing doesn't just happen suddenly. So in the case of this particular one, what he's done effectively is, whilst he's still in C major, he's got this lovely gosh, you can tell it's been a while since I've done this, so all this now is modulation. Modulation. And now G. Just to make it all less harsh. And as it nears the end of the exposition, what happens is you just have to finish on the new home key. And I say new because the whole piece is still in C major. When you notate a sonata form, you notate it in the home key throughout the whole thing. So all the F sharps that you find in the key of G major are individually marked on here. You don't change the key signature on at the beginning of the bars, you change just the accidentals there. But you finish it on the new home key. So we've modulated to G, so we're going to finish it in some capacity on G, and that's kind of what he does. It just finishes like that. And it's very, very common in a classical sonata like this to repeat the expositions. So and go through all that again. And that leads on then, when you've done that twice, that leads on to the development. And the development is a bit more of a free-for-all. It's where the composer goes a bit mad, because the whole point of the development section is it creates tension and it creates anticipation, all the more so. So because what you want to do in the development section is you want to create a sense of non-resolve. So what you want to do is put on, using inspiration, drawing on the themes that you've already established, reintroduce those themes, but reintroduce them in such a way that they sound different, they sound incomplete, they sound unfinished, maybe change the tone of them, for example, play around with them, and never really sort of, never, put it on a journey that creates much more anticipation for the final section, which is the recapitulation. In the case of this one, you might remember at the very beginning we had this in C major. And so on. What Mozart's done is he's not only changed the key of that, but he's changed the tonality. Now in the development, it's very important that you don't use the tonic. You have to use any other key, and even better if you modulate frequently between the keys, so you give it a real sense of not musically resolving any of the phrases, so that you've got these sort of little snapshots. And that's exactly what he does here. He uses a mixture of major and minor transpositions of that idea. Okay, and this is all still development, even though now we've got some sort of sweetness within it. We know that we're still in the development section there, because we've not yet gone back to the tonic. Like I say, the development will never have the tonic in it as an overall key. We are there back into the dominant, actually. We're back into G. And that leads us back into the third and final section, which is recapitulation. Now, recapitulation reintroduces the original themes from before, but puts priority on reintroducing the second theme. And the reason that its priority is to reintroduce that theme is because it takes that theme that was the one that was not in the home key, and it puts it in the home key. So in the case of Mozart here, we've just sort of finished off. Where did we finish? We get this again, which is the original theme, which was already in C major, and it still is. I really shouldn't talk and play at the same time. That's the kind of thing that happens, but never mind. So that was that. And then what he's going to do is, shortly afterwards, he's actually going to reintroduce the theme that we had earlier, but now in the home key, the tonic of C major. So, where would that be? That would be... like that. But even though they're both in the same key now at the end, they're both in C major, it's not very interesting to just sort of go straight into the other one. So he's going to create a little bit of an interesting modulation again. So even though he's going into the set, working from tonic to the tonic, the same to the same, he's going to give us a little bit of filler there, just to make it a little bit more interesting, which is exactly what he does. Obviously using themes that he's already established and sort of adapting them. And that's where you get this. C. That wasn't entirely by the score, by the way. I just sort of gave you a very loose interpretation there, because it's been a while since I've played it. So yeah, but it will give you an idea, and then we're back in C, and obviously we just work our way through that, and then we finish off on the tonic. And what we do, just to give it a real nice sense of finality, is obviously we give it quite a nice dramatic big ending. So something like that finishes nice and conclusively on the tonic. Now, the rules are exactly the same when you're talking about a piano sonata form in the minor key. It's just that you don't move to the dominant, classically speaking. You move to the relative major for theme B in the exposition, and then needless to say, in the recapitulation, you go back to the tonic for both of them. A good example here is Beethoven's piano sonata in C minor, first movement again. That one, you might remember this. And all that, that's in C minor. Relative minor of C minor is E flat major. Been a while since that one as well, evidently. But that's the theme, the second theme in the exposition that he introduces in C minor, in E flat this time, in E flat major. And in order to get there, he gives us this lovely sort of sense of modulation, this. Oh dear, I should really got the music out for this one, shouldn't I? But never. And so on. So there's how it works in the minor key as well, and then obviously you've got a very similar idea with the development. I'm getting all the words muddled up. Never mind. With the development, because you've got completely different keys, and it never really settles in one. I shouldn't talk and play. And then obviously when it brings the themes back towards the end in the recapitulation, that E flat theme goes to the minor key, in this case the relative minor, C minor, the tonic. But hopefully that's given you an idea of how sonata form works. So yeah, have a study of sonatas, and not even just sonatas, symphonies and concertos. A lot of classical music follows that form, so do have a look around and study it, because it will really help you to develop your musical understanding. And also, if you can recognise the structure on a piece of printed music and you improve your transposition skills, it really helps you to learn the piece of music much more evenly and quicker, frankly. So yeah, there it is. Thanks for watching.